But this roadblock that was in front of me, on the side, there was an entrance that led to that church that the pastor was building. My mother then said that each and every time when she would stop at that checkpoint, when she would look around, she would see that one of the soldiers was that same pastor. And this dream kept on coming back to my mother over and over again. And in her dreams, always my mother would say that the soldier would then direct my mother to that church building. And when my mother would be offloading that glass coffin, she would see that inside that glass coffin, it will be her. And my mother would not even understand how it was possible that she will be the one who will be driving the car and the car will be carrying the coffin. And when she would look inside the coffin, she would see that she was the one who was inside the coffin. And my mother would say that by the time that she would wake up from this very strange dream, she would see that she would be the one who would be like one of the bricks that will be waiting to be used on that same building. The day that my mother died, she was sent into another town on church business by that same pastor, and she then hit a donkey and the car that she was driving overturned. After this, the pastor was the one who assisted with my mother's funeral and pledged to take care of us. My mother's family had suggested that she had to be buried back in the village. The pastor in the church refused, and some of my mother's relatives agreed. When they agreed that her body was not supposed to be taken to the village, it was because they didn't know of all the dreams that kept on troubling my mother, because some of my mother's relatives, they were now Christians after they had seen how the church had been assisting my mother. So they wanted the same assistance that was being given to my mother. They wanted the pastor to assist them as well. So when the pastor refused that my mother's body had to be taken back to the village where she grew up, some of her few relatives then agreed. But when my mother was buried in the city, there was only few of her relatives that were present. Some of them, they totally refused to be there so as to witness the burial of my mother. After her burial, that was when I saw that the pastor was nothing but an evil man. The pastor was nothing but an evil man. What this pastor did was so unthinkable. One day, he came to the place where we were staying. Then he called me. When he came, it was in the evening. So I got out of the house. Then I went and I sat with him in his car. He said to me, "Son, there is something that I want you to do for me. Can you promise me that if I tell you this thing, you will do it for me?" So I said, "Yes, I can offer you whatever assistance that you require from me." I immediately agreed, and he told me that he wanted me to lie that I was the one who had impregnated this other woman whom he was cheating with. And this woman, my brother, was a married woman. And that woman and her husband, they were new members to that church that I was attending. When I refused, he kicked me out of his car and he told me that he was going to beat me up. And that was how he kicked us out of our house. And on that night, when he said that he was going to kick us out of our mother's house, I was so confident that the house was now in my mother's name. But oh, Brother Nashi, I was so wrong, because the title deeds that we had, they were all fake. After that pastor had served us with the notice to be evicted, that was when we found out that my mother had never received that house as a donation. She was only staying there because the pastor wanted to give us a roof over our heads. That was how we were kicked out of our home straight into the streets by a man of God. All that I can say, Brother Nashi, is that the days are so evil. Brother Nashi, after we had been kicked out of our family house by that same fake pastor, the one that had pretended as if he had gifted our mother with her house, And soon after she had passed away, then that pastor had the nerves to come and kick us out of that same house that he had gifted to our mother when she was still alive. Our auntie then took us in. She was one of my mother's cousin sister, and from the very first night that she searched for us, when she heard that we were now staying in the street, when she came and picked us up, it was in the evening when we arrived at her place. But things were very tough because our auntie is a woman who was very prayerful. She forced everyone that was staying under her roof to pray each and every day. I do not have any problems with praying, Brother Nashi, but the conditions in which she was forcing us to pray, it was really terrible for me and my siblings, because in this church that my mother and my auntie used to attend, there was this other unspoken rule that was followed by each and everyone that attends this pastor's church. So this unspoken rule, what it says is that if you attend that pastor's church, then you have to make a printout of his picture and you have to keep his picture. Either you keep it in your kitchen or in the living room. Some, they even hang it in their bedrooms. Each and every house, if you go to those people that attend this fake pastor's church, if you get into their homes, you will see that the pastor's pictures will be all over the place. Whenever our auntie would force us so as to pray, sometimes I would look at that picture that will be hanging on the wall, the picture of that man who had kicked us out. It really felt terrible for me and my little siblings. But after that pastor had heard what had happened, when he heard that our auntie had took us in, he was really angry at our auntie. And at that time, there was this other piece of land that our auntie had recently sold. So she then went to the church, because in that church, there is this church advisor who then referred her to the pastor for more financial advice. This was after she had told that church advisor, who gives a lot of people who attend that church financial advice, after he had seen that our auntie had sold off the land at a higher price. That was when he told her that he had to go to the pastor for more financial advice. And Brother Nashi, do you know what kind of advice she was given by this pastor? Our auntie told us that the pastor told her that the rich will never see and will never enter paradise. So it was wise for our auntie to invest the money that she had gotten from the sale of that piece of land that she had sold. And the pastor said that he didn't want to touch the money because he didn't want to be part of it. Neither did he want my auntie to invest the money into the church, but he wanted my auntie to invest the money straight into heaven, and he wanted my auntie to give that money straight to God. So the only way that our auntie could invest this money straight to God was if she could buy a certificate that would take her straight to paradise. And after she had bought that certificate, when her heaven certification came, our auntie was told that unfortunately she had only passed by a narrow 98% margin instead of 100% pass margin. And this meant that if she ever speaks against any man of God, no matter where this man of God will be in this world, if she speaks against any man of God, then she will forever lose her place in heaven. And this thing, my brother, even up until today, it has confused my auntie so much. And I feel so much pain for my auntie, because even deep down in her heart, you can see that she is still even afraid of losing this heaven certification that she got from the church, because this certificate is supposed to take her to heaven. So sometimes she actually stops the lawyer who was willing to assist her to get her money back, and this has led in the delay because she does not want to prosecute this fake pastor. She is afraid that if she speaks against this man, then automatically she is going to be denied when she will die. By the time that she wants to get into paradise, then her space will not be available, because this is what the certificate that she was given says. I don't know what kind of mind control that will cause someone to sell their land, and after they had sold their land, to use all of that money to buy a so-called early access heaven entrance certificate. But this happened to our auntie. Our auntie was even threatened when she took us in, that if she kept on staying with us in her home, then her certificate, the certificate that she was going to be given, will be invalid. Brother Nashi, I have a lot of stories to tell you. In that church, there are some people who have some bank cards. And the funny part about these bank cards, Brother Nashi, they do not even work. Even if you try to use them in the shops or at the ATM, they do not even work. But you know what the pastor said after he had started this project of printing these bank cards? He said that these bank cards will only work by the time that Jesus Christ returns. So each and every month there are people that deposit money into their accounts, but since the accounts do not even exist at the bank, the money then goes straight into the church's account. The pastor said that by the time that Jesus Christ would return, then the money will then be loaded into their bank accounts. People in that church, they do keep these bank accounts, the heavenly bank accounts that do not even work in this world.